The story of Kratos has changed many times over the years. He began as a Spartan warrior driven by anger and revenge, fighting against the gods of Greek mythology. His journey was filled with destruction, betrayal, loss, and war. Kratos became known as the Ghost of Sparta, a warrior powerful enough to challenge even the strongest gods. However, after leaving Greece and starting a new life in the Norse world, his story began to change. The God of War series showed a different side of Kratos. He was no longer only a warrior searching for revenge. He was now a father trying to protect and guide his son, Atreus. The relationship between Kratos and Atreus became one of the most important parts of the new games. Their journey through the Norse realms showed that Kratos was still dangerous and powerful, but he was also trying to become a better person. After the events of God of War Ragnarök, the future of Kratos is more open than ever before. His journey in the Norse world has reached an important point, but there are still many questions about what could happen next. Kratos has changed, Atreus has started his own journey, and the world around them is entering a new era. This could be the beginning of something completely different for the God of War series. One of the biggest questions is where Kratos could go next. The God of War universe has already explored Greek and Norse mythology, but there are many other ancient worlds that could become part of the series. Egyptian mythology has often been discussed by fans as a possible setting for a future game. Ancient Egypt is filled with powerful gods, mysterious locations, massive deserts, ancient temples, and legendary creatures. It could provide a completely new world for Kratos to explore. Another possibility is that the next game could take Kratos somewhere unexpected. There are many mythologies around the world with their own gods, monsters, heroes, and stories. A new location could allow the developers to create different enemies, weapons, environments, and gameplay ideas. After spending several games in the Norse world, moving to a completely new setting could make the next chapter feel fresh while keeping Kratos at the center of the story. However, the next era of Kratos does not have to be only about discovering a new mythology. His personal journey may be even more important. For most of his life, Kratos was running from his past. He was known for destruction and violence, and he believed that he could never escape the consequences of what he had done. In the Norse games, he slowly began to understand that the future does not have to be controlled by the past. This is one of the biggest changes in Kratos as a character. In the past, he would often solve problems with anger and violence. While he is still one of the most powerful warriors in gaming, he now understands that strength can be used in different ways. He can protect people instead of destroying everything around him. He can lead instead of simply fighting. This development could become even more important in the next game. At the end of Ragnarök, Kratos begins to see a different future for himself. Instead of being remembered only as a destroyer of gods, he discovers that people could see him as someone who helps rebuild the world. This creates a major opportunity for the next chapter. Kratos may no longer be fighting only for revenge or survival. He could become a protector, a leader, or even a god who inspires others. That does not mean his future will be peaceful. Kratos has enemies across different worlds, and his past can never completely disappear. His actions in Greece changed the lives of gods and mortals. His arrival in the Norse world also changed the future of the Nine Realms. Wherever Kratos goes next, it is possible that new enemies will know exactly who he is. A new adventure could introduce powerful gods who have heard stories about the Ghost of Sparta. Some may fear him, while others may see him as a threat that must be stopped. Kratos entering another land could create conflict simply because of his reputation. A new pantheon of gods might not welcome a warrior who has already defeated some of the most famous gods in history. This could lead to a new type of story. Instead of Kratos immediately searching for war, he could be pulled into a conflict that he originally wanted to avoid. The interesting part would be seeing whether he can continue to control his anger when powerful enemies threaten the people he cares about. Kratos has changed, but the warrior inside him will always exist. Atreus is another important part of the future of the series. His story is far from finished. At the end of Ragnarök, Atreus begins his own journey to search for other giants. This opens the door for a completely separate adventure. Atreus could explore new lands, meet new characters, and discover more about his identity. There is also the possibility that Kratos and Atreus could reunite in a future game. Their relationship has always been one of the strongest parts of the modern God of War story. Even if they travel separately for a time, their paths could eventually cross again. A future threat could be powerful enough to bring them back together. The next era could also introduce new gameplay ideas. God of War Ragnarök expanded the combat system with new weapons, abilities, enemies, and locations. A future game could continue building on these systems while introducing completely new mechanics connected to its setting. If Kratos enters a new mythology, his weapons could change again. The Leviathan axe, blades of chaos, and Draupnir spear have all become important parts of his combat style. A new journey could give him another powerful weapon with abilities connected to the gods and legends of a different world. The environments could also become more varied. The Norse games included frozen mountains, forests, underground areas, ancient temples, and the different realms of Norse mythology. A new setting could introduce deserts, massive cities, jungles, islands, mountains, and other locations that would give the series a completely different visual style. The enemies would also play an important role. Every mythology has its own monsters and legendary creatures. The next God of War could introduce enemies that feel completely different from the creatures seen in Greece and the Norse realms. This would allow the combat to evolve with new enemy types, new boss battles, and new challenges. Of course, one of the most exciting possibilities is the appearance of new gods. The God of War series is known for its memorable battles against powerful figures from mythology. Zeus, Poseidon, Hades, Baldur, Thor, Heimdall, and Odin all played major roles in Kratos' journey. A new mythology could introduce another group of powerful characters with their own personalities, goals, and conflicts. But the next game should not simply repeat the same story. Kratos has already destroyed one pantheon and helped change another world. The future should show how much he has grown. The best direction may be a story where Kratos tries to prevent war before it becomes unavoidable. This could create a different type of conflict, while still delivering the action and massive battles that fans expect. The future of God of War is exciting because there are so many possible directions. Kratos could travel to a new land, Atreus could become the main character of his own adventure, or the next story could bring both characters together again. The series has already proven that it can successfully reinvent itself while keeping the heart of the story intact. What makes the next chapter especially interesting is that Kratos is no longer the same man he was at the beginning of the series. He has lost everything, fought against gods, destroyed entire worlds, and lived with the consequences of his actions. He has also become a father, a teacher, and someone who finally understands that he can choose a different path. The next era of Kratos is not just about finding a new enemy to defeat. It is about discovering what kind of future he wants to build. His story has always been about fighting against fate, but now he has a chance to create something instead of destroying it. Whatever happens next, Kratos remains one of gaming's most legendary characters. His journey has taken him from Greece to the Norse realms, and there may still be many worlds waiting for him. New gods, new monsters, new lands, and new stories could all be part of the next chapter. The Ghost of Sparta has survived impossible battles and faced enemies that once seemed unbeatable. But the most interesting challenge ahead may not be defeating another god. It may be becoming the person he always believed he could never be. Kratos has already changed the past, and now the future is waiting for him. The next era of Kratos has the potential to be the biggest and most important chapter in the history of God of War. His story is no longer only about revenge. It is about growth, family, responsibility, and the chance to become something greater. The old Kratos may always be part of him, but a new future is beginning. The next era of Kratos begins now.